Hi, it's Grahame from Data Transmission, and we are at ADE.
Yes.
With Pleasurekraft. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Just got here. Excited for the annual Amsterdam shenanigans.
Have you been to ADE before?
Yeah. On a fifth year in a row or something like that. Fifth, sixth year in a row.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. This is my 10th.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, the first time I came out, I was fresh-faced, and you kind of walk into those conference things, and you're just like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah,
Like, all these people are just randomly going at each other, and you're like,
sure.
What is going on? Yeah, so now it's
Yeah.
a little more organised and a bit more structured. And
Yeah. True. No, it's great. It's one of those places where actual networking and work and some sort of business can get done because. Well, not this year because it's actually decent weather, but
yeah, it was nice outside today.
The weather's always so shitty that everyone's like, yeah, let's just stay indoors and have meetings, as opposed to Miami where it's like, dude, it's sunny, beautiful, there's a beach. I'm not doing business here. So, yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to join my kind of learn section, and we're going to do an really extended big question series today.
Let's do it.
I'm going to ask you a load, and then let's just see
What sticks.
Let's see what we can see what general knowledge I can pull from your brain about dance music and about being a DJ and about running labels and about for our younger audience, right? And then before I jump into this, we need to just say to the make sure you comment below and any takeaways you get from this video, because it's really good to have people in the comments and see what they're going to get from what you're learning from you, basically. So let's jump into it. First thing I'm really interested in, what I was speaking to you about before, is you self-manage, and I think for young DJs that are really worried that they need to be on a management agent, they need to, because that propels them forward, and I'm really into they don't need to be, and they can do stuff themselves, and they can organise themselves, and they can get themselves further with just the right advice, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a case-by-case scenario. Obviously, like some DJs/producers are the type of people that, they can't be bothered to wake up on time to make a flight, to make a gig, for whatever reason, it might be. Those people, they usually pair up with a tour manager or something at least. But I did used to have a manager. We're still very tight. I used to be with 360.
Nice.
And
it's a big agency. For those younger people that don't know, that's a big agency. They look at big artists, and they have a big roster.
Yeah, and for a time it was great and things worked, and but everyone's kind of different and people grow, and once you kind of start spreading your wings within the industry and you kind of get to meet the people that you're going to be having more contact with as far as in a business sense, and you have some type of business acumen and some sort of vision of an end game of how you see your art, how you... Okay, let me back up first. I'm going to use this term art in a very specific way because after about 8 years in this industry, there's a difference between people who just want to make party music and be known as DJs and just travel making people dance, and that itself is a great thing.
Yeah, of course.
100%, and that takes a certain type of skill.
Well, yeah, it's very difficult to just make people
exactly.
Dance. Yeah, some people fail at it miserably.
Of course, exactly.
So,
I won't name names, but many in the top 10 of RA and DJ Mag. But anyway, but if you have some sort of larger concept of what you want to do within the confines of electronic dance music or techno music or whatever subgenre you're working in, if you have a vision for what how you want to be seen as an artist, and you are willing to put in the hard work and you have a work ethic to reach that goal, you need to find somebody that, whether it's with management or with a booking agency, who really understands that vision, because the worst thing that you can do is end up in an agency who just wants to fill your diary. So if you're with an agent, obviously they're making 15% of every gig. A manager is taking 15% of everything after that. So once you add all this up, if someone's just filling your diary without keeping an eye on, okay, but this artist wants to develop in this manner, and to reach this type of level and to be known in a specific way.
Yeah.
If your tour diary is just being filled, yeah, sure, the bank account's fine and everything, but you can really quickly dilute yourself and lose sight.
Yeah, also fall out of love with just generally where you
100%.
Why you got into this
100%
in the first place.
100%. So if you kind of want to approach electronic music from a more artistic perspective, you need to make sure that the people that you're aligning yourself, whether it's management, promoters even in your given city that you're playing in, that it's a thing that's understood across the board.
Yeah.
So now, what I was saying about management. So I was managed by a guy who I'm still very tight with. We get along great, but I just felt like at a certain point, I wanted to say something more with my music than just playing dance records.
Right.
And sometimes when you go through that kind of transition, there's a saying that, it's not a saying, it's psychologically proven that it's easier to get people to grasp a new concept than to get their mind around changing their mind around a concept they already think they know.
Right.
So for instance, a person like me, first track out of the gate, Tarantula, 2010, goes number one, goes huge, people still playing it. When your first track is that big, everything is going to get compared to that, no matter what you do. And then when you have further hits that are kind of in that same genre and whatever it is, like, you know, at that point, tech house, people have this conception in their mind of, okay, Pleasurekraft, yeah, I get it, that's the type of artist that or whatever, that's the type of DJ, producer, whatever it might be. So when you decide, right, so like when you decide, well, I'm bored just doing one thing. I have musical ADD to begin with. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, but I don't want to be known as a tech house DJ for the entirety of my career. So looking back at it now, it probably would have been much easier had I just come up with a different moniker when I switched to techno 3 years ago. That being said, I'm incredibly proud of the techno records that I put out, but at the same time, it's kind of like pushing a boulder uphill all the time.
Exactly. You're having to change your kind of brand identity, your whole persona, and what people know you as. How did you have to stop and have a break and kind of let people just about you a little bit, and then you kind of come back with a new sound, or is it you just evolved that sound over a longer period?
It was the evolution of sound, but more importantly, it was kind of seeing that, okay, the public that thinks of you this way, now there's kind of this plateau effect.
Yeah.
And maybe even a decline in how, I don't want to say relevant, but how present you are in the scene until people really grasp the fact that, oh, okay, so this wasn't for like one EP or two EPs, like this is Pleasurekraft moving forward, or whatever artist it might be. I'm certainly not the first artist to do this.
That's deploying a lot of patience from your end, like a lot of patience of just kind of being continuous with the same music, being continuous with kind of being solid on the sound that you're putting out.
And that's when I first started talking about the vision thing. It's like when you have a big hit like Tarantula and then like a few other hits, like, and you get painted with this brush and your tour diary is filling up and you're making great money and you're traveling the world and you're like, wow, this is my dream, I'm realizing it. It's really quick before you're like, wait a minute, like, I don't want to be just known for this.
Yeah.
And so then when you're like, okay, I need to pump the brakes a little bit and kind of recalibrate like what it was that really brought me, why I wanted to be doing this, and that's for artistic reasons. Yeah. Sometimes there's a lull between what you're doing and what the public perception is, and especially promoter perception.
Of course.
So when you ask me about management or agents, I think when you're a certain size artist, having a manager can be an impediment to success.
Right.
And I say that from the vantage point of dealing with a lot of young artists who have 1, 2, maybe 3 releases, most of them on small labels. Yep. And you're like, yeah, cool, I'm gonna sign this EP, blah, blah, blah. You're like, yeah, sure, talk to my manager. It's like, dude, You're playing one time in your city on one resident night in a mediocre club, if at all, and you're paying somebody 15% for what? Like, if you can't figure out a way on email to sign an EP to a bigger label with a bigger artist when you're that small, like, I mean, I just laugh sometimes when I'm like, I didn't have a manager until I was, like, my diary was full.
Sometimes you just have to educate, and this is why I'm trying to do this series. It's about educating and about, you know, telling young kids that they don't, you know, that's what I'm saying, they don't need to have a manager, they can just do this themselves, they don't need to have, you know, they just need to be switched on, and you need to know about just even just reply and accept where your position is in this industry, you know?
Sure, absolutely.
Some people have massive delusions of grandeur, and it's like, you know, just respect where you are.
Yeah.
Work out how you get to where you want to go to the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step.
Yeah.
And put that plan in place. You know?
Yeah, and I want to make it really clear, I'm not bad-mouthing all managers. There's great managers out there. And when you reach a level where you need someone with connections to take you to the next level, having a manager with those kind of connections, it sometimes is the only way to that next level. And when I say that, I really mean it from having lived through it, which is people who tell you that all you need is talent are bullshitting you. If you look across all genres of art, if you're pandering to the common denominator, and you have someone that's well connected, you're gonna trump any artist whose art is better than yours.
Right.
Like, art is maybe third or fourth on the list of priorities of what you need for success. As sucky as that sounds to hear, it's even suckier for me to say that having lived through it, but it's just a fact of the industry. Like, you need to be marketable, you need to have a manager, agent with great connections, because those two things alone will fill your diary before the greatest techno record, the greatest tech house record you ever made.
Great network, having your own great network, having your own manager's great network, definitely. You know, I know a ton of great combos that artist and manager, and they they're at real big levels because both know their shit, and each one delivers on that combo, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. But you know, kind of the point I was alluding to was the more, I guess, pessimistic one, which is where, you know, if you just focus on making great music, which I should be here telling everyone there and telling you, all you should be worrying about is making sure that the art that you're making is the absolute best that it can be, and devoting every waking hour that you have to making sure that you live, breathe, eat, shit your artwork. But that's just sadly not the world that we operate in.
Yeah.
And as painful as it is to say that, you can look at so many artists who are touring the world, after some who've been around a year, 2 years, and their tour diaries are filled. And there's artists who never chart, who make incredible records that you've been playing for years. They play once a month somewhere.
Yeah, and then that kind of brings down to their social relevance. How you know.
For sure. Like, if you're not gonna play, look, I'm on the fence about this social media game, because I'm kind of like in this middle ground where I get it, but at the same time, I can't be bothered to post selfies of myself, to post the, you know, arrivals or departure screen of the airport that I'm in. Like, it's just not me. For me, if it's for you, great, do it. And your fan base will connect with you, but it's not for me.
For me, I don't think it's like, yeah, that's cool, it works for a lot of people, but for me, social media for DJs is more, you know, getting that really high quality video and building that fan base we just played in, and kind of like an afterthought, like you play a really good gig in a really small country like Thailand, or
Sure.
Making sure you get a really good video using social media to grab all those Thailand fans.
Sure.
So that when you want to go back there, you've got an even bigger fan base.
Sure, yeah.
Because you're using social media to, the bidding on Facebook adverts for instance Thailand will be pennies.
Yeah.
You'll get a massive fan base there because you've got one cool video you're playing. And that's that for me is social media for DJs. That's
for sure.
Using the power and just the cheapness of advertising. So you're taking what you've earned and taking 10, 15, 20% of what you earn and instead of giving it to management, putting it into I want to put that into building my tribe across the globe, and I really do believe in building a tribe across the globe for DJs. Because then you can build this tour, and then you can have these sales across. Because music's global, so why wouldn't you use that social media?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
I've left you on that one.
No, I mean,
Let's talk about you. Obviously, you run your label, and
I think the reason why I paused is because I have an ethical issue with Facebook specifically. So it's this, anything that you use online that you think is free, you're sorely mistaken because you're the product.
Oh no.
And so in a way, now especially, you put a post up, a track that you worked on for a month and put your heart and soul into, and you put it up, and it's going to get 10 reached 300 people. Well, how did it reach 300 people? I have 240,000 likes on Facebook. Right.
If you, the thing that is for me is if you take that same video and you put it across two advertising platforms, Facebook, Instagram, or you put that on telly, which one of the same amount of spend would actually get you more fans, more reach, more gigs, more?
Sure.
That's from.
Sure. No, I get where you're coming from, and you're not wrong. It's just my own personal issue with having to pay a multinational corporation who's literally mining you, the user, as data, and on top of making money, selling you as the product when you think that you're using a free service. On top of this, you're now paying them so that their algorithms will push up a post that used to be, you put something up.
So yeah. For me,
that being said, of course we do boosted posts. Of course, we have to. But it's what Facebook has become now. That's just so sad that the entire idea of this platform has been hijacked.
A lot of my DJs, I try and get them to come out of Facebook and invite your fan base out of Facebook and invite them into your own database that you then own, and actually back into things like email marketing, because once you own that database and once you own that fan base within that, then they'll actually, if you really cultivate them and really give them stuff they really like, then they are going to stay your fans and they are going to stay your fan base.
And even though Facebook and Instagram are basically the same thing, at least like Instagram, I feel like somehow it's still way more in tune with, despite all the ads and having to boost stuff, I feel much more comfortable using Instagram as a social media platform to push releases, etc.
Obviously, you run your label.
Yes, Kraftek.
We've obviously been bringing some great releases from that from Data Transmission.
Another one coming up, I think.
Yeah, I think we've got another one coming up next couple of weeks. Obviously, this might be out before, but I'll link to it in the thingy in the corner. So let's talk about I guess kind of what your tips are for running a label, and how for young DJs and young artists, that they, should you be starting a label? Should you what are the benefits for starting a label as a young DJ and a young producer?
Although Kraftek has been around since 2000, well, initially right before, I guess it was right around when Just After Tarantula came out. Is it bad that I can't even remember the day we started it? Right. But anyways, it's kind of had a couple lives, and initially my ethos was, okay, I just want to release good music regardless of genre.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we had people like Rampa and Me. This is well before and Me and Rampa and Kind of Music was a household name. You know, DJ Anna, who's now huge, was on Kraftek well before she was huge. Matrix Man on Kraftek well before he was huge.
I actually heard Amy at ADE for the first time, like years ago.
He's fantastic.
What a DJ! We actually I think he had one of the first. We actually had one of the first podcasts he ever did for a blog.
Yeah.
Way back.
Yeah.
I can't even remember the number, but I'll probably work it out.
Yeah.
It was such an incredible mix. Incredible. Yeah. Now he's obviously at a whole other level, man.
Yeah, as a techno act, he's one of me as a techno act. He's one of the few tech house acts that I still, you know, listen to his shit. Whenever I see a new And Me release or a new Kind of Music release in general, I'm always into it. So yeah, in the beginning, that was kind of the general idea behind the label, but it kind of became this thing where, sadly, the demographic of I feel like the Beatport demographic, and I'm singling Beatport out specifically because they're 90% of all digital dance music sales. Now that streaming is here with Spotify, it's a bit different, but at least with Beatport, I just felt like it was really hard to make headway with records when 1 week you'd be releasing Deep House because you just love that Deep House record, and the next week you were putting out something harder, and then next month, and then the month after that you were putting out a Tech House record. So Kraftek kind of went idle for a while. We didn't do anything with it. And about January 2017, when I put Rigel out on Kraftek, was kind of the start of, you know what, I've personally been doing techno for 2 years at that point, with, you know, stuff on Octopus, Drum Code, Nicole Moodaverse Mood recordings, and a few things that happened behind the scenes that kind of were just like, you know what, I'm more interested in the art and what I can give to a listener, just like when I was growing up, my favorite bands, my favorite acts gave me, where, like, you know, I'd get home, I'd, you know, pop the CD open, and you read in the liner notes, who are they thanking? What are they saying? What's the artwork? Like, all that, the physical product, which we grew up with, and it's kind of like, that inspires you. You're like, oh shit, who's this guy? And you look it up, it's like some author who wrote some book. You want to go read that book? And you're connecting all these things together, and all of that stuff is who you are now. So to me, it's like, that's what I'm interested in.
Have you got more of a consistency with sound than for the label?
Yes. So that's where I was kind of heading.
Do you find that's
it's been very helpful. So yes, that would be my advice. Now, since the last year and a half that we've been releasing just this kind of cosmic techno sound, as I like to call it, like, it's been going phenomenal. I think the last I heard, we were like the 6th best-selling techno label on Beatport, and that's with half the amount of songs being released. So it's like, I care about, okay, I believe in this record, I believe in, I'm not interested in records that are loop-based, that are going to be high charting, and in 2 months, no one's playing that record anymore. I want the records that it might not chart well, but people will play it in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, and people will be Shazamming it like, yo, what's this fucking record?
I'm talking about the content, exactly the same thing. Is that I hate throwaway stuff. I'd rather have a much better.
And 99%, I'm sorry, 99% of it is throwaway stuff. But like, oh, this formula works on the dance floor, it will go top 10, and it's going to be like, great. And it does work on the floor, you can see it, and it does chart high because of that. But it's not, again, I don't want to sound redundant, but it's not, there's no art to it. It's formulaic, loop-based crap. You know, and not all songs that chart that high are like that. I'm just saying, so many quote-unquote producers are lazy or just don't have any kind of artistic merit, where they'll sit down, they'll just put a bunch of loops together. They're really good at compression, they're really good at EQ, they're really good at mastering. They know how to make a record work on the dance floor, even if they're just using loops and not really musical at all.
Yeah.
Fine, go for it. But that's not what I'm interested in. That's not what Kraftek is about. So I'm not hating, it's just not what's close to my heart.
Okay.
Even though it sounds like I'm hating, I'm really not. And as a result, there's also the ethos about the whole space theme, and like I'm a bit of a space geek, and that's kind of been incorporated into all the artwork, and like
cool.
I spend so much.
So you do all the artwork and brand inside in your house?
Yeah, so basically I come up with all the conceptual stuff, I'll draw stuff out,
Nice.
And then I'll kind of take a photo and I'll send it to my actual graphic design guy, who's incredible on Illustrator and Photoshop, and he brings all those sketches. When I get a demo, I'm like, I love this track, I want to sign it.
Yeah.
I listen to it 100 times, and I try to just clear my mind and think about what do I see aesthetically as far as what this record represents.
Nice. That's really cool.
And so
Really going
I
in
sit
depth
down.
with the artwork,
Yeah,
really going detail.
I think the December release of the Spectre release, there were up to 47 different pieces of artwork that we got up to.
Nice.
I don't know how long Spectre spent on the track, but I would venture we might have spent more time on the artwork.
I heard that you were releasing all their tracks. So
Yeah.
I literally heard
Yeah,
it,
Spectre are like
I
my
literally-
boys,
I
and
literally
yeah.
heard- I literally heard it earlier. I didn't know what
Yeah.
you were going to say
Yeah.
about it, but
Yeah,
that's
and
cool.
like to me, it's just like the aesthetic and the artwork is so closely tied to the music that I'm hearing that it's one thing. It's one conceptual thing. So yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
and yeah, it's been great. And if you want to run a record label, my number one advice would be try to keep every release consistent. Don't make the mistake that we made at Kraftek, which was initially, I just want to release good music. Okay, but the road to hell is paved with great intentions, and that would be one of them.